Hello and welcome to another open source workplace video. I'm glad you could join us today. If this is your first time coming across the channel, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're alerted to all future videos. Today, I'm very happy to welcome back Stuart Commins. Stuart is a broker operating in London. Stuart, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me back.
No, man, good to have you back. I hear London's open, but I hear the weather hasn't been so great this week, so bit of an anticlimax, I hear.
Yeah, the weather hasn't been great this week. I think we've been spoiled in the last 2 weeks before that, but London seems to be opening very slowly. I think a lot of offices now, including ourselves, offices are COVID compliant, if that's a new term. And yeah, they are open. So employees have the opportunity to go to the office if that's something that they want to do. No one's forced to go to the office, but I think a lot of people have different circumstances to others. A lot of people are missing the office. A lot of people are comfortable going back to the office, and therefore the opportunity exists to have a desk, although on quite a different type of environment.
Yeah, and one of the things I've seen in the US side of the concerns is a lot around public transport. You know, big cities like New York, Boston, Chicago, where there's a lot of reliance on public transport to get to and from, the home to the office. Is that a concern you're hearing in London also?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably put that down to one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people. I don't think it's so much the office because offices now have been adapted with one-way systems in place. There's spacing between desks. I think for example, in our office, every second desk is available to use. You've got to pre-book it before you come into the office, so the office is not overcrowded. But I think that as you touched on, the big issue is how do you get to the office? And in London, a lot of people are reliant on public transport. Yes, there is you can cycle in, you can run in if you're lucky to live close enough to the office. But I don't think that's something that you can do every day. So it's going to be it's very important that people somehow need to get access to public transport, and naturally the risks that come with that, and from of hygiene and germs with what's going on at the moment. So yeah, it's a big concern.
Yeah, and I was actually going to make fun that you could probably run now, given how fit guy that you are. But whenever you get back, you can let me know whether you
I'm getting
choose
old,
to
Steve.
run
The
or
knees are hurting.
cycle. But just playing. So obviously, as we like evaluate the London market and sort of what you're seeing, could you give us an update on what you're seeing on the type of deals that and strategies that your clients are looking for, but also are there abatements and deferrals that clients are still pushing for?
Yeah, I think that there are two parts to that question, right? To answer the kind of the second part, which is rent abatements, and the answer is yes. I think a lot of existing clients are seeking some form of rent abatements or rent deferrals just to help with cash flow. I think a lot of businesses have been impacted by this, obviously, through COVID, and there's been a massive impact on cash flow for a lot of businesses. Uh, so they are seeking opportunities where possible. But I think we probably touched on this in one of your previous episodes that ultimately who bears the brunt of this? Is it the landlord? Is it the tenant? This is not a fault. It's not a fault of either the landlord or the tenant. And landlords also need some form of income, right, to keep their portfolios running. Um, so yeah, it's. I'll be honest with you. I don't think a lot of occupiers are actually getting rent discounts. Um, they potentially are getting additional restructuring, whether that's pushing out their lease expiries by a couple of months to help with immediate cash flow issues, or whether it's utilizing deposit monies in the short term to pay for quarterly rents. But to say that they're getting a kind of complete discount as such is probably not right.
So I totally understand, obviously, the abatements and the strategies that you're sort of looking at, but where do you think the immediate activity is going to be for occupiers?
It's a very good question. I think if you were to ask me what we do, and I know you introduced me as a kind of broker as such, but I think the one thing that we see ourselves doing is all forms of tenant representation and tenant advisory, and that is the likes of lease renewals, lease re-gears, um, disposals, and obviously acquisitions. And if you were to ask me today, right now, where do I see a lot of activity coming? I think it's certainly going to be on the kind of the workplace advisory piece, companies working out how much space they actually need and how much space makes sense financially as a business to commit to. And I think we'll probably find that a lot of businesses can cope in smaller premises than they currently occupy. And therefore, the activity is probably going to be around disposals more than anything else. Yes, occupiers will need to find space. Those that are in buildings that are going to be redeveloped, and there are companies that are expanding who will. But I think in the short term, certainly over the next 6 months, we're probably going to see a lot more Grade B space come into the market through occupier disposals.
Mm, mm. And as people, as your clients look to take on additional space, are there many that have sort of looked at we had plans to take on X amount of square feet, understanding the circumstances, how their employees may want to work in the future, are then altering the strategy, perhaps the size of square footage that they were going to are planning to take?
Yeah, look, you see, there are two trains of thought with that. One is we spoke about the kind of public transport and the impact of that, right? And a lot of companies are saying, do we have satellite type of offices? Do we have offices in different hubs around London because we have staff that are coming in from Essex and from Hammersmith and other regions of London? And therefore, is it better to maybe have a kind of smaller hub in London and various other satellite offices around it, which employees feel comfortable going to? Um, but then again, there's also the other thought where companies who are persistent on having a London presence, you know, how much how much additional space potentially does the various COVID compliant regulations allow for? If you take a service office, for example, we know that service offices are at rather efficient densities, right? And you can get 25 desks quite easily into 1,500 square feet, probably smaller. Um, that I think is going to change. You might find in 2,000 square feet now we're probably going to be seeing 7 to 10 desks, and therefore occupiers who might have 50 employees probably might need more space in London. So I see a lot of workplace strategy going on right now, to really work out as in which companies' employees want to work from the office, can work from the office, or can work from home. And then we're probably going to see a lot of restructuring in terms of our occupier activity.
Yeah, no, and it's I'm sure, if I ask the colleagues in the US, they're probably going to say exactly the same thing, right? Because there are so many unknown factors, and making decisions and signing huge real estate commitments it can be a tough thing.
Yeah.
Are you seeing those who are negotiating new leases asking for shorter term deals rather than the typical London traditionally was very long term contracts?
Yeah. It is building by building, really. I think your new schemes naturally there's still enough demand out there to warrant 10 to 15 year terms.
Mm.
Um, I wouldn't say they're getting shorter terms. I think a lot of occupiers are now seeking flexibility in terms of break options, and landlords are willing to accommodate that. But again, it really is building dependent. Your new schemes, for example, on the South Bank, where there is low vacancy of 2.8%, um, you'll be hard pushed to find fifth year break options. But in saying that, if occupiers want flexibility, I'm sure there'll be a lot of tail end leases coming back to the market in 6 to 12 months time, which could afford maybe 2 3 years of a bit more flexible arrangement and hopefully reduced capex solutions.
Stuart, as always, appreciate your insights. Great chatting with you. And
Thanks, Steve.
thank you again for contributing to Open Source Workplace. And if you want to reach out to Stuart, we'll put links in the description below, or you can connect directly with Stuart. But Stuart, thank you. Great chatting with you.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Cheers.